Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, the Leo King, and we are here for Deep Astrology, your weekly astrology forecast for the week of December the 11th through it's going to be the 9th, actually, through the 15th of 2020. I'm already way ahead. I'm already thinking ahead. Sag season. Thanks for being a part of HighVibe.tv. Of course, make sure that you are a member to get my exclusive horoscopes and this horoscope in its full form. And if you are on High Vibe watching live right now, I truly appreciate your subscription and all the awesome content that we have to deliver on High Vibe. I have an extremely special video that I am doing. I'm sure you've seen the trailer already. If not, make sure you check it out. It is 2021. It is going to be about shattered reality. You have a way out, and there is a way out. And I am taking all the gloves off. If you've loved all the past paid videos I've done, this one is bringing it all home to help you understand what this 2020 was about and what it's leading to for 2021. I am also covering the grand conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in more depth, and I am covering the eclipse cycle connected to the Mayan energy and a lot of other secrets that I got going on. It's going to be Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific, only on highvibe.tv. You can watch on any of the apps, or if you want to be part of the chat, just watch on your computer or your iPad or your mobile phone on the mobile web. But there's a whole chat version on there, and this is going to be a 3-hour special presentation. You know how I do. I give it to you all, show you the chart, show you all my secret plans of how I do everything and what I see in the future, and make big predictions. And I have a pretty good track record. Well, here we are. We are in the screenplay of our lives. We are in a week that we are going to come to a total solar eclipse in Sagittarius at 23 degrees, which happens to be, because of the precession of the equinox, in both systems of Western and in Vedic, we are at the cusp right there of where Scorpio and Sag is. But in tropical, we are at a place that is pretty close to the galactic center. But it also is very close to this south node, which makes it a total solar eclipse. And this is a week to where on the build up to it, which happens on Monday, that solar eclipse, we have a lot going on. I mean, we're in Sag season, of course. We've got the sun and south node squaring Neptune. And this is a very interesting, element to be in, because we have the nodes that are still square Neptune, and these nodes are not changing position until we come into Aquarius. All right. They're going to stay at 19 degrees of Gemini and Sag. So Neptune at 18 is very slow. It just came out of being retrograde, of course, weeks ago, and it's not moving at all, pretty much. It's such a big planet, it's far away. So it takes a while for Neptune to get going, and we are in times that feel like a movie, literally. It feels like we're all living in a reality show, and we probably all are, and I think that it's important for you to realize that we are rewriting a major script in our lives, the screenplay, because this is time for that. With the South Node energy, it is where we let go. It's where I like to say it's the great purge. And so this is a big purge that is coming into our life. But with big purges come great new gains of new exciting energy with this North Node in Gemini. And I think it's important to realize, where are the spiritual things in our life that are not connecting anymore with the story of our lives. And I also think at the same point, with Mercury being in its detriment, and Mercury going to also join this party on the South Node and square over to Neptune, all while this eclipse does go down, I think it's important to note, to see that there's also, when it comes to the idea or even the understanding of the messaging that's been going around on the world stage, especially since Sagittarius rules other countries, it rules this more global understanding of life, it rules our belief systems, it rules our religious ideals. It also rules the understanding of how the spiritual community tries to come together in a solid belief form. But we're realizing, I think, that, we've been rewriting what the spirituality looks like, and getting much more into the more youthful energy, the more exciting energy, and the uniqueness of who we are. And I think that it's important for us to remember that it's about being unique during these times, and remembering our unique passions. With Venus here in Scorpio, we're going to see Venus make some amazing aspects during this eclipse, but also throughout this week. So when it comes to relationships, when it sees changes in money around the world, when it also is going to test your self-worth in big ways, it's going through the biggest test of all time with it sextiling Pluto and Capricorn, and going to meet up with Juno at these last degrees of Scorpio, and sextile Jupiter and Saturn on the last degree of Capricorn, which that brings up a whole nother story. And that story is Jupiter and Saturn. So Jupiter and Saturn, right, are about to shift into Aquarius. And just by that, those two planets by themselves meeting up is a big deal. This is the grand conjunction, the 20-year conjunction of the two biggest planets. And they are going to start to conjunct for the fact that they're going to both be at 29 degrees of Capricorn. I mean, I don't know how much more you want closer to get, unless you want to be like, crazy math, which we are in a time of crazy math with, of course, the North Node in Gemini. I think it's important for us to realize, though, that we are starting the conjunction this week. And we have Venus, another benefic, with Juno. And remember, it's Juno and Jupiter that get married, right? Like, it's like the whole idea of relationships and the transformational energies and the great purge of this eclipse in Sag and the old stories that are our own Oz's that we've created. Yes, we all know we're in an Oz moment right now. And we all know behind the curtain, and we all know behind that is some little weird energy that is acting bigger than it is and feeling like it's got all of its power. But I think at the deeper core in ourselves, this is a great transformation, because it's really going to go, what is our true value of ourself? What is that thing that we want to attract into our lives? And what do we want to partner with? Because Juno and Venus together is a very, very positive alignment of a really deep need for partnerships, whether it's love or whether it's even in family or friendship. The people that are in our lives that can help us in ways that we need to receive some sort of benefit from, and especially in these times where we are at the biggest test in our life of what decisions to make. Jupiter and Saturn at the last degrees of Capricorn. Jupiter's out of its shadow. We are now opening the doors to what those decisions are. And this is a lot about Sag energy because, of course, we're in Sag Sun, Sag Mercury, and a South Node in Sag. And I think it's important for us to realize that even though Jupiter's not happy there in Capricorn and it's with Saturn right on its Jupiter's on Saturn's butt. It's right on top of each other. And Jupiter's like, I am ready to finally bust out. Jupiter has been sandwiched between Pluto and Saturn for most of this year, especially when it finally came in at the beginning of this year. And Jupiter doesn't like Capricorn, and it's been sandwiched in, and the benefic energy has been really kind of been found in, those very unique ways of, the simple ways of life, I feel. It's not like the big trumpet horns that we hear in life or these big grandiose moments. It's us appreciating the smaller things in life. And I think that's important to remember that we've been in those times. But I do got to say that looking at this eclipse cycle, and especially that it's a total solar eclipse, and it's on the back side, remember, or it's on the front side from the back side of a lunar eclipse in Gemini, that, was in a very weird square to Neptune. And at the same token, I feel like it wasn't exact, like this is more exact, but it's still that energy where we have been all up in the air about where is everything going in life and where are things going next. And there's that unpredictability of Aquarius that's coming, right? On the 17th, we're going to see Saturn come into Aquarius here. And then we got Jupiter that follows right after that. And by the 21st, they've already conjuncted. But I think that we are going to see the biggest changes in life. Now, it's going to feel Aquarian, but I'm going to describe to you right now how it's much more Neptunian than anything. And you're probably asking, what do I mean by this? Well, because, of course, we're in eclipse time, it makes it more potent. And especially, this eclipse cycle we're in, with this one being a total one, which I'm going to show you, when we go to the charts of especially, we go through different, sorrow cycles and eclipse cycles, and they have repeating patterns and so forth. And this one is a repeating pattern of the one from 2002 in December. I think it was December 4th, 2002. We went into war right after that, if you don't remember. I can also show you many weird things about sorrow cycles and eclipses. And the different ones, they all fall under different numbers, different categories, right? It's not like every single eclipse is under the same sorrow cycle. But the one that this one is, and this one's a total, so you almost want to pay attention to it more, is this one is bringing us into some very weird times. Now, the fact that we've got Neptune squaring the nodes during this time is very important to me, because I feel that this one is really deeply connecting us to whatever is not truly of the light, whatever is not truly there. It's almost like you already know it, but if you're in denial, it's going to happen. It's one of those things where Uranus energy or Aquarius energy, it's like you couldn't have predicted it. But there's going to be so many turning of events here in the next week, and especially as we finish up into next week, that some people are going to be feeling like it's very Uranian. Like, I can't believe it, but that's much more Neptunian, or it's much more Piscean, or it's much more Sagittarian, right? These are dealing with Jupiter stuff. And with Jupiter being such a big aspect in the astrology right now, and having the two benefics in a great form, and almost giving it a little push to help it get over Saturn here, even though Venus is at its detriment and Jupiter's at its fall, the two benefics are helping each other out. And there's Juno to save the day, right? She is there to save the day. And actually, the wife of Chiron is sitting right where Saturn and Jupiter are at. So it's kind of interesting to see there's like this cooperation, or there's the partners of actual energy. And we're talking about like the romantic partners too, and understanding of the philosophy, or if you want to go deep into the mythology, that are helping get through things. And I think that this is a time in our lives where we are going to realize that it is the deeper connections we have in our life that we choose that help us in determining our path and understanding, who's there for us to get us to where we need to go to. So if you're suffering in a relationship right now and you're in the illusion and something's going to crack here, as especially I'm already predicting the year of 2021 called, shattered reality. If your reality is just about to be shattered and you're going to get cut by that glass, even though you've been seeing the cracks in the reality of your life, this is not a Uranian moment. It's that you were aware but chose not to be aware. And so we're going to see things that have been in our view, in our intuition, in our sphere, but have we been willing to pay attention to it? Have we been willing to accept it? And so this is going to break all of the beliefs, break all the norms when it comes to the ideas in our belief systems that are rigid. Anything that is not mutable and flexible, and being willing to listen to the universe and willing to let go of maybe, well, I believe that this is the only way, or you already know how things are going to go. There is a sense of knowing, but this is where you start to use the mental knowing, and that, you start creating your own story in your life. Oh, I already know this, it's going to be this way and all that stuff. And then, and especially Neptune rules the media, and we're seeing some really weird stuff with that. We're seeing, you're not allowed to even talk about things from the what now, I have to say, that we all checked our marks about on some sort of thing to do something about, right? Like, that is going to get crazy over this next week and a half. And it is going to blow people's minds, literally. Like, if you look at these transits, this is not going to be just like what you've been told is going to happen. Okay? What you've been told is not going to happen. Because everything in this eclipse cycle, everything about it, it was like the writing was on the wall. So let's use 2002, for example, December 4th. I was literally on my way to boot camp that week, 18 years ago. And I get into boot camp. The writing was on the wall, though. I joined the military on July 31st of 2002. I signed my papers a week after my 18th birthday. And, there was some talk about, if we were going to go to war or whatever. But what was so weird at the end of that whole thing was by the time I got to December and I got to ship out to boot, that's when I remember it was like, oh, I guess Colin Powell is going to talk to the UN. And, all these crazy things start to come down. And the next thing you know, I'm sitting at boot camp after the eclipse happens of 2002 of December 4th. And they say it's war boot camp now. We're in war. And we have to prepare when we get out of boot camp to go to war. And I'm like, sure, that might have felt Uranian, but at the same time, it was like, what do you mean? I already knew this. I remember Colin Powell getting ready to talk about it. We all knew where it was going. And I think that people need to start to prepare to remember, look what's happening with the talk about, remember that Sagittarius rules foreign countries. We are also, depending on which chart you want to use, I'm somebody who uses the July 4th chart. There's some people for astrologers that use the America chart as July 2nd, which I already know the reason why it says July 4th. We celebrate July 4th for the Declaration of Independence because Benjamin Franklin used a farmer's almanac and definitely didn't want it on a full moon and definitely didn't want it on a full moon of Capricorn. So, but we have to remember that, and I'm a believer it's a Sag rising as well. I feel like at the end of the day is when they wrapped it all up. But that's just, that's the number one chart that's used on Astro. And I go with that consensus. And I'm just somebody, and I know some people question that, although I think it's kind of crazy to question it, but I think it's important to question anything right now, so I'm not going to think you're crazy. But, to me, it feels like when people go, oh, but America's got all these secret things and all that. I'm like, yeah, 12th house 12th house Scorpio for Sag rising. But so this is going to hit America's first house. This is going to oppose America's Mars. And this is where the nodes are at on America's Mars. This is definitely ringing a lot of bells right now about foreign countries and ringing a lot of bells in America's chart, especially Mars energy, first house energy, and with the nodes squaring Mars and or on Mars. And I'm telling you, you might not see it this week, but I've already been seeing all the articles that, I know there's a lot of other major stories out there in the world, right? But we're not hearing about the ones that are actually, all of us are. And you know what? If you're trying to tell me that you don't read all the other articles out there, let's just be real. You do. We're all looking for information right now. It's North Node and Gemini. And I just want to say on a world scale, don't forget that this eclipse is the one that brought in the end of 2002 into 2003. Don't forget, this is the eclipse that brought in the energies of the TSA, that brought in all these things. So look at where travel's at right now. Look at where vacationing was like. Nobody went out and started vacationing in 2003. Look at how the military is moving more than it's ever moved we've ever seen since that time. I know I've been saying it that the Mars cycle we're in right now hasn't happened since 1941. That Mars, when it went retrograde this year in September, right? It went retrograde in Aries like it did in 88, but in 88 it went back into Pisces. Here we are in 1941 energy, because in 41 it was way up high in Aries and it stayed in Aries and went direct in Aries at 15 degrees this time. And guess what? This Mars is in aspect to the nodes. This Mars is going to trine the sun this week. And that's what I wanted to finish this with. There's definitely going to be some sort of major conflict that's going to start to arise here. There is definitely, with Venus sextile Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto, major events that are going to happen around financial institutions and money. And it's all connected. So I just want to put that out there to you to remember that's the cycle we're coming in. It's important for you right now to look at your personal life, though, and your environment in your life, and focus on being in the truth for yourself, using this great Venus and Jupiter benefic energy, even with Saturn, to make something solid and real and worthy in your life. And when it comes to your relationships, that's more important than ever. We're having the wife of Jupiter with Venus to help that out. And we have the wife of Chiron with Jupiter and Saturn, which are all in sextile right now. And there's something to say. And this has nothing to do about like masculine or feminine, right? Like, oh, you must be just some sort of wife or something. Because I know it's like 92% women watch me. But it's the idea of a partnership. And it's the idea of a union that can help each other out through these times. And I think that people are going to have to open up to that suggestion this weekend coming into this eclipse with these transits more than ever, or be prepared for that reality that's going to be shattered. And it's going to be shattered a lot more in 2021, but I'm just trying to show you, like, don't think that it's crazy when you've been seeing the writing on the wall, if you've been paying any attention at all to anything about military movements, about what the Secretary of State just talked about China, the way that they're talking about China and America now on both sides of the aisle, or even the investigation that just got popped out, which it was weird if you watched my daily, but unless you're on High Vibe, you all said, I said today, I would be like, there'd be something weird coming out about Mr. Biden today. Oh, it was his son. Uranus is squaring Biden's Pluto through this eclipse. This solar eclipse is making a weird angle to both, both candidates, but, the stuff in Cancer for them. But for Biden, that's the ruler of his chart. Jupiter is at 25 degrees for him in Cancer. So there's a lot of weird things that are going to show up here. I hope you know, and I hope you've been aware. And if you have been doing any kind of spiritual, intuitive work, you feel it's not going to go the way you've been told. Let's go to the charts. All right, so we've got a beautiful, beautiful chart to look at here. We've got good old Earth here as I'm running this chart for right now at this moment, which, yeah, actual time. We're seeing Earth, and you can see as we look from Earth's view, look at Jupiter is ready to get in front of Saturn from Earth's view, right? So if we start to move towards, this is the 15th when we come to the end of that week, and then we have on the 21st the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction from Earth's view. See, it's just like kabam. See that now? So see how close we are as we come back to today? So imagine the two biggest planets, right? The two big boys and the two gas giants. And one's a great big storm, and the other one's a storm that's all clean cut. You know, one's got a really nice haircut and keeps its, you know, Saturn keeps its energy straight and it all plays by the rules. And then there's the wild and energy of Jupiter. And just the understanding of the momentum of those planetary aspects happening is monumental. Let's take a look at the solar eclipse energy that's coming in on this 14th. It's around 8 a.m. Pacific. Let me see here, right? So we'll just put it right. It's I'm close enough, right? There we go. I mean, that'll work. Okay, so here's the I'm showing you, like, there's the moon, right? That's going to be right in front, and from right. So we look at it from this angle, bang, right? We're going to actually see a total solar eclipse. So we're going to see it over Chile on that eclipse path, and people down there in the southern hemisphere are going to see it. So there's going to be a lot of activity down in the southern hemisphere, a lot of stuff going down in Chile. And especially, I'm just going to bring up with all the solar activity that's been going on, you know, flare-wise, electromagnetically. You know, I know that the northern lights are popping as I'm speaking tonight. There's a lot of solar activity going on. We've been seeing the most earthquake movements down there in Chile for a long time, for years. And actually, if I really think about all the eclipse cycles we've been in, or the Pluto-Uranus squares, or stuff like that, there's just been some weird energy that it's something's connected there. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I definitely feel that we need to pay attention to, maybe there's some significant event down there, or there's some significant event about South America in general. And that is where the Mayan energy is based out of as well, in South America. So I think, you know, I mean, or Mexico too, and there's also Peru. But, you know, when you look at how wide an eclipse goes, especially since this is a total, you know, there's the one line that's like you're guaranteed to not see, you know, the sun. You're going to go into darkness, right? And then you come up and south of those lines and you actually see. And there's something about that area, South America, Mexico, all down there, that's what there's going to be a lot of things coming out of from that area. The last eclipse that we saw, you know, it was about China and so forth. So it's going to be kind of an interesting eclipse. But what I want to show you in this, from seeing the physical points of view of it, right, is look at how it's not exact, right? So if we were to look at, that's exact, right? But how that big pink line that's above, that is the galactic center. And then where it meets that purple line. So, I mean, this is a pretty close galactic center eclipse. Now, the last solar eclipse we had was literally in opposition to that galactic center. So, you know, we have to remember that we are definitely playing with intergalactic energy. And when you add that to the whole idea of the fact that we are in such a weird time, we are in a time that we are definitely trying to figure out what's going on in the universe. I mean, these are divine cosmic events that are happening in life. And I think that it's interesting as well to see where Venus is at and Mercury, right? So we're seeing Mercury that's, oh, that sucks. That sucks. It happens. This will just take me 1 second. I'll put it, oh wait, large and enabled. Okay. But when we look at seeing how Mercury, right, is opposite the sun, Earth, and we're going to see Mercury conjunct the sun. This is a different kind of conjunction point, you know. Like this is one where it's in complete opposition. It's also in tropical, the understanding of the sign of its detriment. So, you know, for those that are kind of not able to logically kind of, you know, put together things and kind of go off just other people's beliefs or like common beliefs that are going around, it's definitely not the best time for you to kind of put your mind there, to take your facts from there, especially since Mercury's going to oppose the North Node, which is ruled by Gemini. I have one more thing to show before we go into this. So here is going to be this eclipse here on the 14th of December. This is just a Wikipedia form of it, but I do want to show you when we go into understanding and where we're going to see it. So here's actually more of an image of it and how it's hitting that South America energy very intensely. And that's why I brought up Mexico, even though it's like right, you know, it's like right there. You got to remember there's a little bit of orb around this thing, hitting Antarctica too. So let's not forget about that. The big thing that I want to talk about though is the sorrow cycle. So it's in number, if you see this, and maybe some people don't understand it, but you know, there are these sorrow cycles, okay? I'll go to sorrows real quick because it's a period of exactly 223 synodic months, right? Which is about 6,585.3211 days, or 18 years and 11 days and 8 hours, right? So it's the cycles that they come in those 18-year cycles, you know? And it's interesting because we can, as astrologers, really learn a lot from the different cycles that we're in. So we're going into the 142 sorrows, okay? Now, if we look at the eclipse cycle, interesting, right? There's the types of eclipses, they go in the sorrow cycles differently. You'll see a bunch of just partial, and then they will flip, and you'll see them go, there was like a hybrid here, right? So that would be, I think, like in between partial total, right? So that's kind of interesting, 1768, building up into the Revolutionary War. And then it went into total. So these eclipses are interesting. This is why I give a lot of power to the eclipse, or I'm sorry, the rising of a Sag rising in astrology for America. But also like this one, September 7th, 1858. You know, that's the time in which, you know, you see the everything about Lincoln really coming up really big. And then he runs in 1860, and we also see the country at its most divided point. We also see 1930, you know, during the Great Depression. We see 66 after, you know, a lot of the beginnings of really the wildness, Vietnam War, stuff like that. And then, of course, December 4th, 2002. Now, that December 4th, 2002 is a big one to me. And this one is going to be the 23rd of the eclipse cycle here of number 142 in the Saros, okay? And this is a total. And if you notice the way that if you start to gauge and when you look at the actual gamma, so you can like understand by the more that it goes down and when it meets to 0, not, right? So like when we reach that, we're out of a negative gamma to a 0 gamma, it becomes very intense, and every one gets more intense. So just the more that we go down this line of this eclipse cycle, we could see repeating patterns. We also see in 84, this is also the eclipse that re-elected Ronald Reagan. Same slogan. You know what I mean? So, and I don't know if people remember, but if you remember December 4th of 2002 much, this eclipse happened more down there by Africa. But, you know, it definitely, in some parts of it was the second total eclipse of the sun within 18 months following the solar eclipse of June 21st of 2001. So that was also part of an eclipse cycle dealing with what brought on 9/11. Okay? See how it's connected? So you see how 18 months after the June 21st, 2001 eclipse, you get this one, which brought about figuring out the understandings of the weird things that were happening in life from 2001. Because you got to remember that an eclipse cycle lasts, whether you want to do it from a 6-month period or you want to do it from the whole period, or they say, especially in more medieval and ancient astrology, it's when Mars passes where the eclipse happened. So if you look at where we've been having eclipses, of course, this year, Mars has been stopped in Aries, right? It's not like there's been anything here in Pisces lately or anything in Aquarius lately. This also, the eclipse that we're in right now that's coming here in 2020, December the 14th, is connected to the similar path of the solar eclipse of February 26th of 2017, which also was the first month of you-know-who's presidential cycle. With that, we're going to go into the chart. So make sure that you join highvibe.tv to be to watch these fully, or if you're on YouTube, it will for sure go. You know what's crazy is I didn't have something set up right on my Premiere Pro, my Adobe, and you all got it for free last week on YouTube, and I have no problem with that, but it will work today. So you guys are all going to audio that are on YouTube, but if you're on High Vibe, let's go deep into the charts here on December 9th and all through this week. And let's look at this eclipse too when we get there. So here we are Wednesday, and the sun is squaring over to Neptune. And I think that this is, one of the most kind of interesting ways to set up the major things happening through this week. Major things happening, Saturn, Jupiter, 1. They're coming together at the last degree of Capricorn, moving into Aquarius here in the next following week. 2, Venus, Pluto, exact sextile. Very good energy. It's a resetting energy. Pluto, Venus, I don't think that there's a mutual reception, because it's not like Venus would be happier in Capricorn and Pluto would be happier actually in Scorpio. So I would call it a mutual reception in many ways. But there is some sort of mutual reception going on here, and definitely an energy of us getting to the bottom of our wants, our needs, and what needs to change. Also, at the same token, we have the Sun and the South Node starting to meet up. That is event 3. So we'll do that as 2. And we also are having the Sun starting to trine Mars. That is event 4. We also, at the same token, have the Moon, which is in opposition to Mars. I'm going to call that a 5, but I'm going to call this more of an interesting energy, because the 5th aspect is we're watching a waning moon throughout this whole week before the solar eclipse on Monday, and it's going to be with Venus. So that makes it a 6 element, while the moon is going to come over and meet up with all these planets in Capricorn. We also at the same time have been dealing with a black moon Lilith in Gemini, which I think has been much better with the North Node. It's been making things more interesting in our lives, figure things out more, having to find, I think, more things that stimulate us. I think in Taurus and in Aries, it's been kind of weird because the outer planets are there. But we are going to start to see that energy bounce back and forth. And so it's interesting to see that that's how this Sun square Neptune is making you aware of, what changes need to be had. And relationships are a big deal because, of course, the moon is in Libra, and it is in opposition to Mars. And this is a time where, these are the last times we're going to see the moon oppose Mars, while Mars is in shadow, while we're seeing Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn and Pluto in Capricorn ever again, right? Because we're never going to see Pluto in Capricorn again, unless we're going to be weird, chipped out hybrids that live for hundreds of years in virtual reality or something. So, what is not longer serving you spiritually in the story anymore? So let's move to this Thursday. when we actually see a very interesting event happen. The sun is going to conjunct the south node. Now, I call that the Great Purge. It also is bringing up a lot of like, it's like things that need to be dealt with, and there's, I think, a positive element because it's Sag. You know, even though sun south node can feel weak, right? It can feel like, gosh, I'm a loser, or gosh, I'm not at where I want to be. It's almost moments like that that help us change the game, change the story. And there's always a good road with Sag, even if it is a south node. There's always a door open. There's always a thing positive that happens. But we have all come to the end of our ropes in some place in our life, right before this eclipse too. So, by the way, Craig's going to be having surgery on this day, so everybody give him his love and support and prayers. And I don't think he's going to need prayers. I know he's going to be great and fine, but I just give him his support. But, you know, it's like, I think I'm going to use him as an example. It's like he's been tired of having to deal with his pain in his life. And it's like, boom, the day that this happens, he gets surgery to have it fixed. So it's these moments where even though we feel weak, we all come to a point where we're over it in life. And think about this. Saturn's at the last degree of Capricorn, right? With Jupiter coming on top of there. We're all at the end of our ropes here going, I'm just over this last 3 years of life. I'm over it. I'm over the Saturn to Capricorn, right? It's like we are done feeling restricted. We are done feeling like everything takes a while. It takes slow. Everything's slow. Everything's slow. Everything's slow. Everything's taking time. Everything's painstakingly taking longer than normal in life. And this is definitely bringing us to that place. And Mars is in trine though. So it's like, if you do just realize that it's not as weak as we feel, there's a lot of positivity, and Mars is in its home sign in Aries, and it's bringing the power to get us through, to change the stories and rewrite the new identity. Since Mars is in a rewriting energy, since it has been rewriting itself in the retrograde this year. Remember, the last retrograde of Mars was in 1988. Don't forget that now. You know? So, I think that this is going to be where, especially with look at this, the moon in Libra on Thursday is at 28 degrees of Libra, going to square over to Jupiter and Saturn. And I feel that that's going to be like, you know, big choices that need to be made in our lives, but it's in order for us to find peace and harmony, but we got to choose a side. We got to make a choice. We got to go through with it. Sun trine Mars, we got to use the energy, and Venus is off the sextile to Pluto and getting ready for its, you know, big aspects here to Jupiter, Saturn over the week. So I feel that also it's the sun opposing the North Node, right? It's like in order for us to get into, you know, the energy that's going to make us feel younger and more exciting and change the environment, we have to drop an old story that we've been loaded up with. And get out of the delusion that we want to continue to believe that we can just keep going this with Mars there, keep going the same direction and not expect a different result by hopefully it will just change eventually. No, we have to make some sort of change element. We've got to believe that there is a better way, and sometimes we have to drop the story in which that we've been in. And so, because really beliefs are just stories, right? Because they're really not written in many ways. They're more fictional than they are fact. And I think that, you know, it's a very important day on this Thursday for us to realize where have we reached the end and where are we ready to bring emotional justice to our life to feel more in harmony in our life. And what people are there for us in our life is going to be a big thing that help us through these moments. As we move, and look at that. Also, it's going to be interesting. Black Moon Lilith comes back into Taurus. So, you know, in trine to Saturn. So it's like we want to take action off things, to have things in our life. This is the end of a lot of the earth energy, remember. We're moving into going to be a lot of air. We're going to be in a lot of air. And, you know, a lot of the mud is drying up. But we are also kind of, you know, pushing ourselves with all this fire energy that's been around. It's been drying up the very muddy waters of 2019 and 2020. That have been extreme, right? And it's just like, okay, like we're pushing ourselves through dried up mud and might be like, you know, kind of like a zombie or like a, you know, weird thing, you know, dead body creeping out of the graveyard. It'd be hard. Unless I guess it was like brand new grass. So, you know, just remember that, you know, there's a little bit, it's like Tremors. You remember that movie, you know, like, you know, it's like those things, like how they flow through with Kevin Bacon. We're like Tremors, like ready to get out. Oh, God, tremors. So, December 11th, Friday, we're still with that sun and south node, but we're past that point where we're leading off that pass. And it's interesting, the moon's going to be in Scorpio and going to oppose Uranus. And also at the same token, we're done with the Sun-Neptune square. We've got the sun still trining Mars. So there's a lot of energy Thursday into Friday about very clear direction now. Maybe it might not be mentally, but I think it is about, I really want to go towards a new story. And this helps us release the old story with Uranus kind of checking up on the moon where the moon's at its fall. Remember that? And it's going to go dark when it gets to 30 degrees away, the balsamic phase, right? And at least Venus and Juno are here, though, so we're getting a lot of the light showing up through these moments, like to help us through, to purge old energy out, to get over situations, and to get to a better quality of life. And that's the way that I see it. And this is all I remember happening before the eclipse. So I feel like Friday's a day that, if we're going to feel any Uranian energy, I would say it would be on Friday, where it's like, you know what? How's my life going to be better? Maybe I do need to make this wild different change. Maybe I do need to go this different direction. Maybe I do need to change my personal life to bring something better into my life. And I just got to commit to it, and I just got to do it. And I got to maybe let go of some part of my life that has been working. And we are rewriting stories. And here's that Mercury at 15 degrees getting close to that south node. Now, don't forget, Mercury moves fast right now. If we look at how fast Mercury is going and all the planets are starting to get going, remember, we're only one planet retrograde, and that's Uranus, right? And it's pretty slow. But if we look at Mercury, oh boy, doing 1.5 degrees a day. And you see Venus, she's back to pretty much full speed here. Mars is nowhere near close, but it is getting closer. Mars is about 33. It's about, every 2 days Mars goes 1 degree, so in normal speed. So we're almost there. Mars is almost there. Mars is gaining a lot of speed. So this is definitely a good thing. If we take a look at where we're at with this moon, of course, in Scorpio, it'll be at -1 because it's at fall, but it has Venus there to help it. The sun's at +0 because with the south node. Mercury's at -3 because it's in detriment. It's getting ready to square Neptune. Venus is at -4, okay, because it's in Scorpio and it's off the sextile of Pluto. So really, it's just Mars and Saturn. And then Jupiter's, of course, -9 just because it's in its worst sign, and it's right on top of Saturn by position as well, and by exaltation, understanding that it's at its, or dignity, understanding that it's at its fall position. So Mars and Saturn happen to be the two energies that are giving us any power here. And the sun is connected with Mars. So that's really, I think, the thing that's going to outdo this Jupiter-Saturn situation. And I think it's about taking action, redefining things, redoing the story, doing things in your life, making things happen. Now, when we move to Saturday, this is where I'm going to see, this is one of the most beautiful alignments of a dark moon I've ever seen. Usually I don't like dark moons, but this one I feel has a lot of karmic energy attached to it. Because, one, we're going to see Mercury here at 17 degrees start to conjunct that south node by that night. We are also going to see the moon, Venus, and Juno all come together. And so that is going to be a beautiful sunrise if you were able to watch before the sunrise, the morning star, because you're going to see the moon there in its waning form. It's going to be very small. It's going to be a crescent, of course, but in a waning position with Venus bright. And we're going to see that as it's coming in for the eclipse that's going to happen on Monday. But it's in sextile to Jupiter and Saturn. So there's definitely a lot of energy, of benefic energy, in kind of a weird way. It's almost like, I think of it like, think of the times we're in. And the benefic energy is like, it reminds me of like a Christmas Carol, It's like when Scrooge McDuck, realizes that he gave coal to Mickey, and Mickey's not getting coal, he's getting bread or something, and that's like the greatest thing for Mickey. And I think it's like, but we're in moments where that could be feeling like that is everything in life, right? So there's definitely a transformational moment here on this balsamic moon and this dark moon of a major change for you in your life. And this is all happening while the sun's in the south node and Mercury, because that's the midpoint of the sun and Mercury. And at the same token, we're going to see Mercury start to square Neptune. So we're looking at the eye through the needle, but it's also with Mercury trining Mars. We're going to see as this Mercury crosses the South Node that maybe it's time for our minds and the environments that we've been in, the stories we've been in, the environments to all change. We're going to feel like the whole world and the whole environment in our lives are changing all at once. Like it's just going to be like everybody that you know next to you, their life's changing, and you're going to be watching the world change at the same time. It's going to be that fast out of nowhere, but it's going to be like that makes sense if you really were tapped into the Neptunian energy and you really saw how the universe was doing this. Because let's not forget that, this whole entire time we've had South Node, North Node, 19, and it's squaring Neptune. And this transit's going on for a while, up until we move into the new Chinese New Year, believe it or not. So, I definitely want to remind people that that element is going on in the background no matter what all the other planets are turning towards, okay? That is going down. And so there's a lot of energy here that I think is very positive. Plus the moon moves into Sag, and that's going to be a lot easier balsamic moon, I feel, once it comes into Sag, although it is an eclipse time. So don't forget, this is going to be an extreme time, but these are extreme moments of change. So Sunday, the day before the eclipse, like I showed you, there's that moon back or in Sagittarius. So we're already starting that new moon energy. We got Mercury square Neptune. So that's going to be what really comes up on that Sunday. Venus and Juno starting to come together. So the union elements or relationship elements are becoming very extreme. It just had the moon touch it in a balsamic phase of a release and a new story that's coming together with this eclipse cycle and a purging old story in order to get us to this new. And then at the same token, we have the sun that's been in trine to Mars. We have Mercury that's getting ready to trine Mars. And there's like a quick purge or a quick I'm ready to change and then change and happen. And then Venus now is starting to sextile Jupiter, the benefic, the two benefics, and we've got Juno with it, and we got Saturn here, and this is also Venus sextile Saturn, and it's like things can become real. And I think for Venus and Scorpio, that's a good thing to have Saturn in Capricorn, because Venus and Scorpio always kind of like feels like, oh, I attracted this in my life, or I wanted this in my life, but it didn't need to stay. That's the whole hard part of Venus and Scorpio. But there's something about something sticking here with Saturn there and Jupiter both there, in sextile to that. And I think that so. Sunday is kind of like this dream story because our mind starts square Neptune, and we have to like, where's the signs telling us? Where's the synchronicities? What we have to ask ourselves, what environment do we want in our lives? We need to start like running through those things into our visions. Now, it can bring out some psychos in the world, I'm not going to lie about that one, or things might seem psychotic as things are changing all over the place, but I think that you have to remove yourself from that equation for a second and remember that at the end of this, that this is a major moment for us of just watching old beliefs and old stories come to closes. And a major eclipse cycle, like I showed you, this 140-second the sauna cycle that's changing. So here we are, the big eclipse on Monday, December 14th, 2020. Bing, bang, boom. This is the big dog right here. So 23 degrees. Wow. Have you ever watched the movie 23? Technically, I think in Vedic-wise, this is actually going to happen in Scorpio. So, but it's right there on the cusp. But it's interesting to see this one because this one is in trine to Mars, and it's exactly trine to Eris. Right? So there's this energy of anything that's not coming from the truth of the feminine, and with Mars, the masculine there, working with Eris, it's like, there's a little bit of pissed off energy there, but there's also a lot of energy that wants to do things for the truth. And so this is definitely good for the truther movement in life. And I feel that, with Mars that's been making sextiles to the North Node, and watching Mercury exactly be on this South Node. I mean, while this eclipse is happening, wow. And Mercury opposing its own sign where the North Node is we have to change the stories in order to access excitement into the truth also in our life. Look at this though. Venus and Juno at 28 degrees of Scorpio, an exact sextile to Jupiter. Wow. And Saturn. And look at Saturn on its last days being Capricorn. So interesting that in 2020, the solar eclipse that we had If I would have to remember on June 20th if Saturn had retrograded back in at that point. I don't think it had. But we're seeing the eclipse cycle from last year that was on Christmas. That was with Saturn and Capricorn, but that was with Pluto. And now this is Saturn past Pluto and past Jupiter. But really it's not past. Saturn's done from its passing because really that brings you back to 2010 when you see the opposition point, and then I guess Saturn might feel like he's passed, but really Jupiter's catching back up. And Jupiter's getting a big reminder here, like this is the end of your time in your home house. Yes, you're going into daddy's house, and you got Jupiter right behind you that's bigger than you and likes, and your dad likes your kid more than you. You know what I mean? So, you know, even though it could feel like for some this week, there is no benefic energy at all if you get lost into staying in that old story and running that old gamut for yourself. But there's definitely, I would say, some of the most positive things happening here. And I would say it's for those that really are connected to seeing through the truth and are not falling for the bullshit stories. Because you have to remember that this is an eclipse that is square over to Neptune. So, you know, that also is the media too. So this is not going to be good for the media. And, you know, the people at the same time, we are, that semi-square energy is coming back lightly with Neptune and Uranus, okay? It's 39 degrees, coming back, we're going to go to 6. So, you know, this is kind of the end of this Neptune-Uranus semi-square at the 45-degree angle, which the Neptune has not been for the people. And I know there's some people that are going to be like, what? I've been talking about this for fucking 2 years. I've been talking about it actually probably 3 years now. So this has been a very rough cycle. Neptune and Uranus also met, you have to remember, when the internet was coming out in big portions, as far as like the beginnings of it in the early 90s when Neptune and Uranus were conjunct in Capricorn. And it's taken this long to see how the internet and how people and how the media and then the internet, and there's a clash behind all this stuff, okay? So, and it's also secrets and subliminal that we can kind of still see because it's not a full square that's been against the people and against the value of the people. And this eclipse is covering that stuff very intensely. It also is a solar eclipse exactly in a quincunx to the degree to Black Moon, Lilith, and Taurus, meaning that our new stories are about our deep need and want for a physical reality to change. And this is going to hyper inflate people's physical lives, that they want a wild change in their life. They definitely don't want to stay in the stories. I almost feel like there's some solar eclipse energy or there's some south node sun transits where it's like people just are in complete denial. Although I would say that there is that possibility for those that just really have been just sheeped out to sheeped bliss, which is not very much bliss. But I will say that I would say that this is, with the way that I'm seeing this beautiful aspect of things coming together, this can really be the great change that we've been all looking for in our life. And this is going to be the beginnings of the weird magic, the weird unpredictability of zero Aquarius that's coming with Jupiter and Saturn. The weird. I always use people in their actual sun positions to help understand. Like Bill Maher, for example, is a zero Aquarius, right? And he's always been the outcast a little bit in the political scene. He was talking about politics with politically incorrect years before people were even really talking about politics much, right? It was like C-SPAN. That was about it. And then now politics are everything because, of course, the last 3 years has been nothing but Capricorn energy. But, there's something to say about how he was way ahead of his game and did things different and still does things on his own. And it's kind of hard to understand for some, and some people really like it and some people don't. But there's a lot of weird stuff that's about to change. It's like the outcast energy, something weird here. And it also brings out the rebellion energy very intensely, since it was when Pluto did cross over that line. Even though we did a declaration of independence, we really start to see the heavy, intense battles happen in the Revolutionary War when Pluto crossed that line into Aquarius. So seeing Jupiter and Saturn here is a pretty big deal. This is also when you start to see music change and the world change when Saturn last time was here, right? After the Gulf War and stuff, when we see the Saturn, the Gulf War with Saturn Aquarius stuff and weird stuff, that's another weird connection, right? So, also, that's also very connected in some other eclipse cycle stuff that I could go back to you one day if you really are really interested, which I'll go into in my video on Friday. And I want to show you that on this eclipse, what's happening in the helio, which is the sun at the center of the chart. Okay, so don't forget about that. This is the sun, not the earth. So there's no retrogrades. But it's Venus. Remember I talked about the relationship thing. It's Venus in Libra, square Pluto, in square to Eris. And remember, Mars and Eris are coming together on Earth's point of view. But look at that T-square to Pluto. This is the great transformation of relationships. We're seeing such a positive thing on the Earth front. On the solar front, though, there has to be some sort of change. We have Mars that's been going through this week, trining Pluto. This is changing the reality that's happening. We also see Uranus now at 9 degrees, 909. You know, this has come now to the 9th degree. This is a big deal. We have never seen Uranus here since, of course, I would say probably about like 35, 1935, 1936. Also, Neptune at 20, we already covered that a couple weeks ago. That's a big moment of us coming up, and we're seeing that in trine to Juno. So there's a lot about the relationship front here on big energies. We also see Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter's now at 5 degrees of Aquarius, and it's now 2 degrees away from off the conjunction point to Saturn, and Jupiter's starting to move. And we got Mercury that's in opposition, of course, to the Earth, right? Like I showed you earlier. So the solar eclipse is going to happen at 23 degrees of Gemini, which it's kind of interesting. This placement in the zodiac, especially Mars, is going to be on Algol's position. There's definitely going to be a major change in the reality. People are going to get drunk on reality changes, physical. And the last day, Tuesday, we're done with the eclipse, and the moon comes into Capricorn. And Mercury, at that same time during the eclipse as well, I forgot to mention, remember, is still trine Mars. So there's definitely like a lot of things changing in our environment, and a new environment changing. And Venus and Juno meet at 29, and sextile Jupiter and Saturn at 29. The moon is going to be on its last time in Capricorn with Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn. So we are coming in this eclipse cycle, and by the 15th, we are coming into what I would call the biggest transformational moment to happen to us. And then there's more that come, but I would say that up to this point, like a holy cow week, wow. And with the moon being in Capricorn for the last time it will ever meet with Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn for at least 800 years. The last time we could have actually seen this energy, and the last time we will see this energy, it was 800 years ago, but, it's more like 760, but still, I mean, to see Jupiter and Venus meet up, and I showed you in the helio what Venus is doing, there's a change point coming into the new week next week for you. When it comes to your values, your money, and what we might see with the government and what they do with money and so forth as well. That 14th, though, in that eclipse, that's a big day. And especially with government affairs and with Venus being there, it's going to be quite interesting to see. And Venus coming into Sag that day as well on the 15th definitely is a much more brighter spot for Venus. And Venus loves the South Node. But I do cover, if you watch my Climax 2020 video, a lot about how these amazing cycles for Venus are going on and how to utilize them correctly, because it's almost like, there's no more time to waste. The eclipse happens, and then the moon is in its detriment, but it's with Pluto there, it's with Jupiter and Saturn. And look at, this is the last pretty much full day. I mean, you can count the 16th, right? But with the moon there and everything, this is the end of Saturn in Capricorn for us. And we will never have Saturn in Capricorn with big planets again, a big Jupiter conjunction and with Pluto. We're not going to see that ever again in our lives. So this is it. This is like that feeling like, wow, this is it. My reality is coming to an end. It might feel like for some people the world's coming to an end. And it is in many ways, but not the way that you would think of it normally. As the sun is heading towards the galactic center, as Mercury is in trine to Mars, this is definitely a big rush as the rush comes, if you remember that song, that's one of my favorite songs from back in the day. But don't forget, with those nodes still in square to Neptune, for some people, for the ones that have just been falling for the Oz show, it's going to be way too much. And it might be feeling like they were deceived, or the other party, or some sort of feeling of being deceived when they were being deceived the whole time. Like, it's like, hello, did you not pay attention to the astrology? So I'd say for you, as we end this now, I'd say, remember, this is a great time for you to start a new story, end the old chapters. It doesn't mean forget them. Keep them in your memory bank, in your soul bank. But it's time for you to finally make a big change. It's about time that we come to a change. It's about time that the real integrity test here with Jupiter and Saturn at the last degrees, this is actually the same uniqueness of Jupiter and Saturn that, met together in 1960 during JFK's inauguration. So, but this one's weird because they actually meet in Aquarius. And we got Venus in great aspects to this. So, there's something to say that we are all changing the physicality of our lives and getting our deeper needs and wants if we don't block ourselves by Neptune, that we don't block ourselves from compassion, that we let go of our spiritual blocks, that they're based off beliefs. They're based off ideas of how reality should look, or any of the shoulds, or any of these like weird stories that you create in your head of how relationships should work, how business should work, how this thing should work, how that thing. We got to throw these out the doors. I think that this could be a revolutionary moment that's going to be building here from this eclipse to that Jupiter-Saturn that meet on December 21st, dealing with factual data and also weird situations going on about things that we were told that were going to happen in our lives not being what they were and being exposed for what they really are. This Mercury in Sag definitely is going to have Mars there to, call it out. Let's just say that. And with Eris and the solar eclipse and trine, there's going to be a lot of calling out of what hasn't been true. And it's almost like a guru has been deceived too. So that means institutions, schools, universities, scholars, professors, they're all going to get mad when they start to get revealed that they've been lied to as well, and they've been given false data. So just know that's what the astrology says. I'm not crazy, but I see that's just astrological data. And so I hope you're ready. I know I am, and I think we all are. And I send you off on a positive note, and I definitely would love to see you on Friday for that 2021 shattered reality video that I'm going to do, which you do have a way out, because imagine how many people that have been lost in the facade. And this brings up that interdimensional shift that we've been talking about in the spiritual community, and that it really is a new earth, and it really is a different earth, and not the one that they've been trying to sell you on the boob tube or even on your phone. And this shadow reality is in many ways the greatest way out, but it's about understanding it and not getting lost in the loop of watching people freak the fuck out, because this is a reality we've wanted to see shattered in many ways. It's just about how you look at it and how to read those things, and how to know how to use this conjunction for the next 20 years, how to close out what your issues maybe been for the last 20 years of the last Jupiter-Saturn. And with this eclipse cycle, I'm going to give all that energy into that video about the Mayan prophecies. So I love you all very much. I appreciate you all. And don't forget everything like I brought up at the beginning of this, 2002, December 4th eclipse. What were you doing in your life? And what came after that? And what similar signals are going around right now? I appreciate you all very much. Thanks for being part of High Vibe. If you want to watch this full video with all the charts and everything, become a member at highvibe.tv. And I'll see you on the next Deep Astrology.